Welcome to the Michael Myers Minute. We delve into the 1978 horror classic Halloween one terrifying minute at a time. I'm your host, Robert Black. Minute 18, we were outside the elementary school. Richie, Lonnie, and Keith are bullying poor Tommy Doyle, taunting him about the boogeyman. And we have a guest. Niall McGowan is back with us from the Bat Minute Returns podcast. Welcome back, Niall.
Hello, yeah.
Now, before we get into minute 18, I have some questions for you I didn't get to in the last minute, Niall.
Okay.
For the record. So, number one, have you ever murdered anyone, or do you plan to?
Okay.
I always ask this of all my guests. I just like the sound of it.
I get what you did there. Well, I'm afraid I couldn't possibly comment.
Okay.
So, that's next question.
Number two, have you ever bullied anyone or been bullied?
I've been bullied. Believe you me, back when I was around Tommy's age here, probably. But as far as I can recall, no, I never was the bullier. But I've been the bullied quite a bit. So.
I was in between the two. I went to a really small school, and one of my good friends was bullying another one of my good friends. It was weird for me.
Yeah. I have a niece now who's like 8 years old, and I keep, like, when I go around to visit, she's always out playing with her friends, and you come back and I always try to get like a bit of what the gossip is from her. And there always seems to be, like, even at that age, there is a lot of stuff of like, these people don't like these people, and she tells me like some of her friends are picking on other friends and stuff. And it's like, it's like, and she because it's her life, this is genuinely a big deal for her. Oh, yeah. I just have this kind of attitude like, that's a bit weird, and just sort of go about my day. But yeah, when you're a kid, that is like the biggest thing in the world to you.
It's like one time, these two friends were fighting, like very physically hitting each other. And I couldn't stop both of them because I was smaller. And so it's like, which side do I want to take? I don't know. Because I don't know what started it. But number three, have you ever seen the boogeyman?
Not in person. No. I've seen movies featuring him many times. But
Sub-question, did you believe in the boogeyman when you were a kid?
Well, I have to say, there's very specific things that did scare me when I was a kid. But the main one was aliens. I remember being very, not aliens the movie, but like just the concept of aliens in general. Okay. And I think I was around that time. I think because one of the films that really scarred me as a kid was Fire in the Sky.
Nice.
Sort of the true life story.
Wait, you saw Fire in the Sky as a kid?
Oh yeah, and because I think at the time people were just like, "Oh, this true story of this thing that happened," and the VHS was just going around.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because it's been added to Netflix recently, I recently posted about it on Facebook, and you'd be surprised the amount of people the same age as me going like, "Yeah, I saw that one as a kid too." It absolutely scarred me for life. So like aliens is my big thing. Ghosts. Just general ghosts, probably a bit further down. But something like in the boogeyman as presented in Halloween. Like the Halloween movies, as much as I love them, I've never found them scary. Okay. I've always just enjoyed watching them. I've never been like, oh, Michael Myers. It's more just like, yeah, just I enjoy the making of the movies and how well it's done, and I can see that like, oh, that's creepy and it's well done. But I've never been like kept awake at night worrying about like, well, if I look out the window and Michael Myers is just standing there. Whereas something as vague as like just a general ghost story, where it's just like anything could be just around the corner, that kind of thing, which is kind of like Michael Myers. So I'm kind of like. If you want to consider Michael Myers a ghost,
he is comparable.
I would say yes. But if you want to consider him, if you just want to consider him like just a killer, then no.
Listeners would know if they were with us since minutes 1 and 2 that my sisters and I grew up very much thinking Michael Myers was around, and there was a tree in particular that looked like a person was standing behind it at night. And we didn't like that tree.
These people must have getting really freaked out then. We're just like announcements of like, there's this movie, Wayne's World's coming out starring Michael Myers. Like, what? Oh my God, he's real.
I grew up in Pasadena and visited South Pasadena a lot. So we were near the location in the movie, in the Myers house, which looked as run down as it does in the movie. And so, yeah, it was creepy. Yeah.
I suppose like, it would have taken a couple of, I don't know, maybe even like decades for it to be like a tourist attraction. Because you imagine now they'll be like, this is the Myers house. But maybe back then they're like, who cares? Whatever.
Local teenagers would go to it a lot in the 80s. Like, all of my sisters went inside it at one point or another. I was the youngest. I was a little too young to go inside before it got fixed up in 87.
Oh.
And moved.
Oh, again, I would have assumed that, particularly nowadays, that would have been hot property. Someone would have bought that up, and then that would be like, come and see the Myers house and whatnot.
Yeah, now I think it would be. I don't know why. I guess in '78 that just wasn't a thing. People didn't do it.
Be like that poor woman who owns the Palmer house in Twin Peaks. Apparently, she's just absolutely pestered with people coming up to the door and knocking. Just been like, is this Laura Palmer's house? Like, yes, I bought it years ago. Leave me the hell alone. Because I guess for like a good 20 years, no one kind of cared about Twin Peaks for a while. And then it sort of revived. Yeah, so now she's like, oh my God, it's people camping out their goddamn lawn and everything. This is a nightmare.
I talked about this a few minutes ago, but the Strode house where Laurie lives, the owners in that house are actually really nice and leave pumpkins out on the porch for people to borrow for photos.
Oh, cool.
And so they've kind of embraced it.
I'm surprised they've not tried the old wheeling dealing thing of like, take a pumpkin for $10 or something like that. If they're doing it for free, that's really nice.
No, they're not selling it. They just keep pumpkins out there for you to use. You like take a picture on the pillar sitting like she does and then put it back. I want to go see if they have some. Supposedly they do it year round. I think if I have time this week, I'm going to go see because I have time to go look at some locations and get some pictures.
Yeah, no, that's excessively nice of them.
But as for the minute, Lonnie, Richie, and Keith are bullying Tommy because Tommy thinks Halloween is just about getting candy.
Yeah, I do like Tommy's facial expression. Because they're kind of giving him like, oh, so you know what happens at Halloween?
Yeah,
and he has it's a really defiant. It's like, yeah, we eat candy. Like it's like he's cornered, but this is a little like, yeah, I'm punching up. I'm like trying to knock these guys down a peg or two, and of course it doesn't work for him. But I do like the defiant look of his face of like, you've not rattled me yet. Anyway,
and maybe he feels safe with that pumpkin in between him and them, like he's got a shield.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, candy.
Not to be a Lonnie apologist, but to be fair, all these boogeyman warnings turn out to be completely validated in the film.
Turn out to be correct, yes.
So it's like, oh, maybe if you would listen to them more, Tommy. Although, to be fair to Tommy, he does seem to take this really to heart as well, so I guess there's nothing more he could have done.
Yeah.
He was freaking complaining about the boogeyman the rest of the whole movie.
Yeah, he believes them. So Tommy turns from them and runs away, and second 11, we have an IMDb goof. If you pause it, as I do, as you do when you're looking at it 1 minute at a time, the pumpkin has been pre-sliced, so it will crack open.
As with the previous minute I was on talking about not knowing that Dr. Wynn was actually in Halloween 6, I was very much aware that Tommy here is in fact mini Paul Rudd.
Yep.
And sort of the amazement that because Paul Rudd hasn't aged in about 40 years. So to see him this young is quite striking to me. Because he looks completely different to what he will
he looks like a completely different person.
Look like in the mid-90s and then remain looking like for the rest of time.
Yeah, Tommy Doyle is also the main character of the Chaos Comics Halloween comic.
I do know there's a comic where Lonnie kind of finally gets what's coming to him, but maybe you want to leave that closer to...
That's in Chaos Comics, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's in that one. We see Lonnie, Richie, and Keith as adults. They all end up dead.
They're still hanging about doing the same exact thing, so I'm supposed
Kinda. They're still bullying Tommy as adults. They're not nice.
Yeah, I guess, when you're good at something.
And then Lonnie ends up getting shot because... Sheriff Brackett, no longer sheriff, mistakes Lonnie for Michael Myers when he goes in the Myers house.
Oh man! He gets Ben Tramered. That's just like the
but then Richie and Keith get killed by Michael.
That must be just like the leading causes of death in Haddonfield for a few years. It's like you're either killed by Michael Myers himself or you're Ben Tramered. It's like people.
They have a name for it. It's Ben Tramered.
Yeah, because they don't tell you in the movie. It's like, it's every October, there's people that's just like, it's Michael Myers! So just driving cars into women's stuff. But I was happy to see here we do get a little, like a little preview of Lonnie getting his ass away from somewhere.
Yeah.
I just gotta interrupt quickly from the future to point out a lot of people make this mistake. The kid that runs into Michael is not Lonnie. It's Richie. I'm not sure I correct Niall here.
Whereas obviously gets echoed later on when Dr. Loomis cracks out his best Harvey Firestein impersonation. It's Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
Now, as they're running away, we actually get another IMDb goof. It says 2 of the boys run across the grass and the last one runs straight ahead and down the steps. But first, before the cut, you see all 3 going to the left. But that's not actually true when you slow it down. Richie steps to the left but doesn't go anywhere. So it doesn't actually not line up.
Yeah.
Listeners will know I have an ongoing battle with the IMDb Goofs page for every movie. And in the novel, it is Tommy who bumps into Michael, not Richie.
I mean, that's an interesting difference because, like, I think if Tommy did bump into him, he would have been even more terrified the whole day. But the fact that you have literally just seen something like this creepy guy standing in a mask who just grabbed you. That would, I like it more that it's Lonnie because it's just
Richie.
A bit more baiting the hook a little of like, they've not quite made contact yet, but it is looming in the background. And ironically, the person sort of utilizing the boogeyman to strike terror himself actually bumps into the boogeyman. And I do love Lonnie's reaction as well because there's no... It's very realistic in terms of just like it is a small kid seeing something that's really freaky, and he does just look at him completely perplexed for a second, and it's just like, oh, I'm out of here. Like, there's no like over dramatic scream of terror or like a slow walk away or something like that. It is just like a completely confused, baffled look.
Yeah, just leaves
of something, looking at something really, really strange, and then just going, oh, I'm out of here, and running as fast as you can.
Now, a couple notes. If you pause it in the right moments, you can see that Nick Castle is wearing the mask. Even though the camera keeps below it. You can see the bottom edge of it a couple times.
Yeah. I have seen photos of the trip. You can... Because I thought, this would have been done with, like, trick photography here of... Just like, it looks like he's fallen over, and then all of a sudden he's down on top of the pumpkin. But I have seen a still of him literally mid-fall going down. So I guess they did film that, and then they edited around it. So.
Well, that's why they cut the pumpkin ahead of time, is it cushions it a bit, I guess.
Yeah. I could plus too if like you're going for your strict Irish jack-o'-lantern tradition, this would have been a turnip, and that would have been a hell of a lot more painful. I don't know if it would have split open as well, but it
would have been smaller though. Also,
yeah, that's what you probably because you had so much of jack-o'-lantern stuff in the opening credits. I suppose you've done like all the mythology and whatnot behind it, and the tale of jack-o'-lantern.
Not on the jack-o'-lantern, no, because as I've said in a previous minute, I didn't grow up with Halloween, the holiday, though I grew up with the movies. Like when I was a kid, we didn't celebrate this holiday. I was in a church that thought it was pagan and bad, and so we never made jack-o'-lanterns. I never made a jack-o'-lantern until I was in my 20s and married and had kids.
Oh, so we didn't make jack-o'-lanterns, but not for any religious reason. It was just that it's such an American thing.
Okay.
That like you didn't really get pumpkins sold in my hometown, and the kind of the old tradition of the turnip.
Okay, do they even have pumpkins in?
They do now. I think it's because it's become so widespread in the media nowadays. You can get.
I mean, do they grow them there?
Oh no, I don't think so. I mean, they must do around October, but like normally you wouldn't get a pumpkin to save your life. But I do, if people are curious about the tale of Jack-o'-lantern, it actually is, it's quite a creepy story.
Yeah.
Because it's, the whole thing of, as a stingy Jack, and he was sort of pissed off the devil, and, obviously couldn't get into heaven, so when he died, Satan rejected him from hell and gave him, like, a flaming ember to wander the void between life and death for all eternity, and then eventually he finds a pumpkin with a carved face on it, or a turnip, as it was back in the day, and walks around with it. But the story is actually, we have a recurring guest on the show who's a YouTube vlogger, Dale Kingsmill, like an Australian woman, and her whole thing is that she tells tales from mythology in a very sort of affable style, and she does a great video on jack-o'-lanterns. So, and the whole mythology behind them, and that tells that story in much more detailed creepiness than I just did. So I would recommend people check that out if you want to know the story.
And in the script, when Richie bumps into Michael's butcher knife falls to the ground.
Oh.
He picks it up and puts it in his pocket. Like that's a weird detail.
It's a bit much for early on in the movie too.
Then I think the kid would have ran away more. One thing I like as Tommy's walking away, it's like seconds 20 to 23. He's kind of lamenting his crushed pumpkin, and then he starts to walk away, and he does this like aw shucks move with his arm, and he turns away looking really sad. Like Charlie Brown or something. Like losing that pumpkin was the worst part of his day. Little does he know what's coming later.
I do know I've seen some fan chatter throughout the years as to why, like, Michael could have easily got Tommy at any given time here. Like, why does he wait until later on? And it seems to he's so predominantly focused on getting Laurie rather than anybody else. But, he obviously does get other people along the way. But when he's in the house, he could be trying to get Lindsay or Tommy, and he doesn't really bother.
He doesn't.
Some people I've seen have argued that he might have had some sort of empathy with him from observing this, that perhaps Michael himself was bullied and he sort of recognizes. I don't like that interpretation, because I just prefer to think of Michael Myers as like, there is nothing in there. It's a complete void of a person. He is just an entity that inhabits this body, and he has no recognizable thing.
I think the best thing maybe for him and how he sees Tommy is maybe he sees himself. And so it's not empathy exactly, but he's not going to kill him first because he reminds him of him. And so he's going to kill the girl who's like his sister. He's going to kill her friends because they're also like his sister.
Yeah.
Depends. There's no motivation in this movie. It's all interpretation.
You could argue that the motivation for the way he grabs Lonnie is a sort of out of anger of like, you were picking on that kid. But I don't like that either. I'd rather he just, I would have accepted it that Lonnie was going to trip and it's him going like, hey, watch it, kid, But I don't think that what it is either. I think it is just like Lonnie almost bumped into him and he just kind of grabs him out of instinct and, sort of has to stop himself from doing anything else, really.
Yeah.
I do like that's a nice jump scare, though, when the fact that he grabs him. It's just
the stinger,
it's the first time to use that. I don't even know what instrument it is, but that real.
Yeah, they have a couple different stingers, and I think this is the first time we hear that one. Yeah, there's a few stingers.
Yeah, that pops up a few times. Yeah, it's one of the most over exaggerated ones because it's like the it's relatively subtle, but that thing's just like, it's like getting a drill on the side of your head. It just comes out of nowhere so quickly and it's gone again. It's like, everything's okay again. That's fine.
Now, for anyone paying attention to the locations, Tommy is walking toward McLean Street, which is the same street we just saw 2 minutes ago, and last minute, out the window from the high school. Like, he's actually walking around to where Michael was parked before, because they use the elementary school as both the elementary and the high school. In fact, around the middle of this minute, there is a station wagon parked where Michael's station wagon was. It's a different station wagon, but there is a station wagon there. Which is kind of odd.
That's a real Achilles heel of mine, because I'm not a car guy at all. So I've been on a few things where people start talking about like cars and like, oh, well, this would have been this and that in like the 70s. It's like, I have no idea what kind of cars you drive even today. I don't know what's popular because I just don't have no vested interest in that. So.
Yeah. Several minutes ago, I was looking up the actual vehicle stats for this station wagon because the nurse drives it very strangely. You never see her shift gears. And she hits the left pedal with her left foot. And so I actually learned that there were cars much earlier, not this one, where you had a forward pedal and a backward pedal and no brake. And I'm like, maybe that's what she's got in this station wagon. It's weird, but it's possible. Oh. But I don't know cars.
Yeah. I will say though, I know a little bit about fashion from wearing clothes, and I will say like particularly Lonnie's jacket. That's the most quintessentially 1970s suburban jacket you could possibly imagine. It's just like that is just like if you need to convey it's the 70s and it's in Middle America. Slap that windbreaker thing that he's got on a kid. And there you go. Like that's it. That nice pair of corduroys. Done. The whole thing, you're finished.
You want to make your movie look like it's in the 70s, copy the outfits from this. Don't go all outlandish and big bell bottoms and weird stuff. Do this.
I do know, apparently, as well, that Tommy's clothes are Brian Andrews' actual clothes, that he just had this jacket there.
Probably. Most of them either used their own clothes or bought their own clothes for the movie.
Yeah. There's a...
Like Jamie Lee Curtis's entire wardrobe was from JCPenney for $100.
Oh. I do know that apparently there was a story I came across of him where he said that when the movie came out, because this was his jacket, he was just wearing this every other day. And when the movie was playing, like, he was saying to his mother, like, oh, Halloween's playing in the Cineplex, that we should go down just to see. And, like, apparently he ran out of the car, and people were coming out of the cinema, and apparently, like, 2 teenage girls were like, that's the kid! Because they recognized the hair and the jacket immediately. Like, you're that little kid! Which would be freaky. Like, if you came out of the movie, and there was already a character from the movie who was just standing in reality.
You walk out of the movie, and the movie's outside.
They wouldn't know what to make of that. Just be like, wait a minute, what? Am I still watching the movie? What's going on?
Michael gets in the car. We see the close-up of the emblem that they put on their rental car for the movie, which is the actual seal of the state of Illinois in black and white. which I'm not from Illinois, but I looked this up. It's an eagle with a banner in its beak that says State Sovereignty National Union, and it stands on a rock with 2 years carved in it. 1818 for when Illinois became a state, and 1869 for when this seal was designed. And then the car also says for official use only. And then second 52, we're in the car with Michael, as I talked about with Andy Nelson a couple minutes ago. We only get Michael's actual point of view in the opening sequence. The rest of the time, we're kind of near him.
Yeah.
And this is one of those. We're in the back seat instead of up.
That's What was your thinking of how he knows how to drive?
In the context of just this movie?
Yeah, like you could just say like, oh, maybe he's just kind of blagging it. Basically, he's just sort of.
Well, in the context of like Dr. Wynn being in Halloween 6, as I said a few minutes ago.
I mean,
like Dr. Wynn taught him. Dr. Wynn is the guy who told him to escape that night and helped him out.
Yeah.
But in context of this movie, it's almost more like, I don't assume anyone gave him lessons. I assume that because he's this supernatural entity of fate, he just knows.
Yeah, that's
if he gets in a car and he can use a car.
Yeah, that was my own thinking as well. It's just that it's whatever dwells within Michael Myers already knows everything it needs to know. Like it's not the
like you see pictures of Michael and they usually put him with the butcher knife, but over the course of the movies, he kills people with whatever's handy.
Yeah. I think it was...
And it's similar to the car. It's like, whatever's nearby, he can use that.
I think it was...
Same with the car.
Again, you could argue it's because of his, his supernatural, nature, but... Cause I think the most memorable ones, for me at least, is in Halloween 2, when he, sticks that guy's head in, the boiling hot jacuzzi.
Oh, the girl, yeah.
And it's like, Michael's hand is getting clearly scalded as well, but it's just like, nope, doesn't care. It's going to keep on going. Doesn't matter to him. That's
one of my favorites is in Halloween 4 when Michael has a shotgun and he doesn't pull the trigger, he just stabs it through someone. Because, blunt force, I guess, is his thing, but
yeah.
He could have shot someone. He doesn't.
You want him to do that nifty Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2 reloading the shotgun with one hand trick. I was like, oh my god, is there anything he can't do?
Or what movie is it where the shotgun is in someone and they shoot someone behind them? While the gun is stuck in someone's body, they shoot another person. I don't remember what movie that is, though.
Oh, I'm thinking of that. It's like it's like a zombie movie, isn't it? So it's
I think so, yeah.
He's kind of walking around. Yeah, it's like a pump action shotgun. He keeps kind of just hoisting his arm back to reload it because it's stuck in the...
That might be in Shaun of the Dead. It seems like something they'd play for comedy.
Yeah. I mean, you need Scott Corelli here. He could answer you that in a second. But...
IMDb goof. One Michael stalking Tommy.
You were really taking it to these IMDb goof people.
When I was doing Groundhog Day Project and watching Groundhog Day, I submitted edits for every single goof in that movie. They are still exactly how they were before that. Those edits have never been reviewed or changed.
Yeah. I mean, I've started to become...
And that was 4 years ago. 5 years ago.
Because there's so many things, after a while... doing Batman, you'd go to IMDb, obviously you go to that trivia section, it's like a gold mine, and most of it seems to be this is all stuff I've heard verified elsewhere, but they'd come out with cast lists. I'm like, did you know these people were considered to play the Joker? And it'll be a list as long as your arm, and nowhere else in all my research that I come across, they're saying Telly Savalas was gonna, friggin' Ernest Borgnine was considered for the Joker. I was like, you're just making up names. You're just like, did you know? I could turn around and be like, Donald Pleasance was gonna play Alfred. And they would be like, yeah, I guess he could have.
The person who wrote that bit of trivia thought that Ernest Borgnine would be good.
But the thing is, if you research the movie, though, they're very stringently they always wanted Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
The only other person who was really in strict contention was briefly Willem Dafoe.
Ooh.
And then Robin Williams, because they used him as leverage they actually offered him the part, and then
to get Nicholson.
Yeah, Nicholson. Then he was like, oh, because he was like, I don't know, maybe. And then they're like, well, we've offered it to Robin Williams, and he's like, oh crap, I'll do it. And then they kind of screwed over Robin Williams, which is why apparently he refused to play the Riddler in Batman Forever because of that, and he refused to work for Warner Brothers until they apologized to him and stuff.
Wow.
Because they did really screw him over. So, but yeah, as far as I know, they did not do that with Ernest Borgnine.
Now, the two goofs in this scene are correct, though. The first one is that once the camera is in the car, the parked cars across the street do disappear. The other one, the window that Michael broke last night in this car is intact. The front passenger side window is there.
But to be fair, though, the entity that dwells within Michael Myers knows how to fix Windows as well. And he's like, I better fix this because people are going to...
You know, he got his outfit from a mechanic. Maybe there was a spare car window in that truck, and so Michael just fixed it. He's like, I can use this.
It could be like a really long deleted scene of the mechanic going like, hey, buddy, you want me to fix your window for you? And then him and Michael having like a bit of like...
Yeah. So Michael just stands there, lets him fix it, and then kills him.
It's kind of like Michael Myers in, again, like Twin Peaks within season 3 when you have, Agent Cooper's sort of mind's gone and like he's just standing there repeating exactly what people say to him, but everyone doesn't seem to notice that there's something really wrong with him. So this guy could have been like, oh, so you're a quiet type, aren't you? Just like working away.
Yeah, they just go along with it. That's not weird at all.
It takes him out to lunch and everything. It's actually like, well, this, Michael Myers spent like 7 hours with this mechanic. They became the best of friends and stuff.
Yeah, then he drove.
Or at least the mechanic thought, and then a cruel twist of fate.
They went out to the bars.
At the end, he's like, oh no, he got killed by him.
And then he left him dead by the
I will say, though, the glass in this movie leaves a lot to be desired because I can understand Michael Myers been able to break that glass with his hand because he's, like a freaking supernatural entity, essentially. Yeah. But the breakaway glass for Laurie at the near the end when she's trying to...
Yeah, in the French stuff.
That's really just like, I don't know, because you can at least have her do it with her elbow or something to make it look like, but it's just the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis kind of like, sort of lightly taps this glass and it just falls away. It's like
also because both scenes are filmed at night, you can see when the glass becomes breakable.
Yeah,
like when they've replaced it with the candy glass because it has a different sort of translucence to it, and so the angle changes and the glass looks different. Oh, that's gonna break.
It's like some of those things in animation. Sometimes you can tell when something's gonna move because they've got a painted in background, and then all of a sudden
it separates from the background.
Yeah, there'll be clear things like, oh, that's clearly about to take off somewhere because now it's slightly different color and stuff.
And the minute ends with Michael and us watching Tommy from the car. Any other notes from minute 18?
No, that's me. That's me minuted out, if you will.
So Niall, remind the listeners, how can they stalk you?
You can stalk me by stealing a car and then driving on somewhere where you can find a computer, and then you can do it online because it's so much handier these days. I wonder in the reboot, are they going to have Michael Myers do any cyber stalking? Because he's like, oh, I could do this from the house. This is great. But yeah, you can find me via Bat Minute, where we do this, but with currently doing it with the Tim Burton Batman movies. We'll be moving on to Joel Schumacher's opuses thereafter. And yeah, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, and believe we're on Instagram. I think there's a Tumblr as well, but I've never been on it myself. Because I know it's my co-host John. He does a lot of the sort of, I don't want to say techie stuff. Social media is not really techie, but like he handles a lot more than that than I do. So, but yeah, you can get in contact with us through any of those, and of course download the show yourself, where we prattle on quite a bit about Batman and various other topics, every 3 days a week. So just find that in iTunes or any of your major podcatchers.
And you can stalk us at the Michael Myers Minute on Twitter and Facebook at Myers Minute, or join the Facebook listeners group 45 Lambkin Lane. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us nice 5-star review if you like what you hear. Until next time.
See you